Hello students, welcome back to the new video lecture. So in this video we will be talking about one of the most important concept in computer science, especially that we use this in databases, that is called relations. So in this chapter we will be discussing about the relations and their properties. We will see how we can represent those relations. Obviously, here we will be discussing about the fundamentals of the relations, the applications you will learn in rest of the computer science courses. So then we will see about the equivalence of relationships, and at the end we'll see what is partial ordering. Right. So moving forward, what is actually the relation and what are the properties? So a relation, basically we call it a binary relation because uh, usually we are talking about two sets. We already know what is a set, right? So we say we talk about two sets, and then we find out the relation between those sets and the relation between the elements of those sets, right? So a binary relation, or simply a relation that is represented with capital R, from a set A to a set B, is basically a subset of, is a subset, or is a subset of A cross B, right? Say for example, if we have two sets, let me just write it over here, or it is written basically, let A is equal to 0 1 2 and B is equal to AB. Then what is A cross B? If we compute A cross B, we already know how to compute it, right? So A cross B is 0 A, right? Then 0 B, right? Then 1 A, 1 B. Remember, the the Cartesian product A cross B is always a ordered pair, right? 1B and then 2A and 2B. We already learned that how to compute the Cartesian product of two sets. So this is the Cartesian product of two sets. So now what is this R? Whatever is this R, that is subset of this A cross B. So we actually say that there is an element A, right? And there is an element B, right? And then they are related to each other, right? A has a relation with B, relation based on some condition, right? So A and B are related such that, just to give you example, right? So A and B, whenever we talk about A and B, that means we are talking about ordered pair A comma B, right? Or X comma Y, or whatever you want to represent it. So these two elements, A and B, A from set A, B from set B, they are related based on some condition, based on some relationships. What is that relationship? That we will be discussing later on. So basically, whatever is the relation, that is basically the subset of A cross B, right? So for example, this one, 0 comma A, 0 comma B, 1 comma A, 2 comma B is a relation from A to B. Yes, we agree with that. Let me call it, for example, R1, maybe R2, whatever you want, right? And then this can be represented, we can represent relations from a set A to set B graphically or using a table, or the third way is that how this is one way, right? Second way is graphical way, third way is the tabular way. So how we can represent it using the graph or using the table, using the the graphical way, right? So here we list down the all the elements of set A, here we list down all the set elements of set B. Here you can see these are the elements of set B, elements of set A. If you remember from the functions, isn't it the same thing, mapping? We actually map the set of A and with element of set A with the element of set B. But here we are calling it a relation. Why? Because this is not a function. This is more general form of the function. In the function, one element of set A cannot be mapped to the two elements of set B, right? That violates the definition of the function. But here in relation, this is more general. We can do that, right? So this is a graphical representation. The 0 is mapped with A comma B. Here you can see 0 comma A, 0 comma B. So that means 0 and A has a relation, 0 and B has a relation. Similarly, 1 comma A, 2 comma 1 comma A, 2 comma B, they have some relation. And if we want to represent it using some tabular method, Here you write the elements of set A. Here you write the elements of set B. So A0, 1, 2, AB. So where if A0 has a relation with A, you just mark it. If 0 has a relation with B, you just mark it. 1 has a relation with A, we just mark it. 1 does not have a relation with B, right? Since 1 comma B is not present in this relation, right? So that's why we just leave it empty. Similarly, 2 comma A is not present in this relation, right? So we just leave it empty, and then 2 comma B is present, so that's why we just mark it, right? So relation are more general than the functions. A function is a relation where exactly one element of B is related to each element of it, that I just explained, right? So this is called a binary relation. Then this relation R that is basically subset of A cross B. It could be of unary operation, but still we call it the binary relation. I mean, this could be uh, on A cross A as well, right? So no matters, a binary relation R on a set A is subset of A cross A, or a relation from A to A. So that means one set can have a relation with itself, that we call A cross A, right? Suppose that we have set A, that is A, B, the elements of set A is A comma B comma C, right? Then A cross A is a relation. So what is A cross A? If we compute A cross A here, so A cross A would be then A comma A, right? A comma B, then A comma C, then B comma A, isn't it? Right? B comma B, then B comma C, right? Come on. Sorry for this pen. I am okay. Let me just erase this one. And then this B comma C, and then C comma A, C comma B, and C comma C. So this is A cross A. Then there could be a relation. For example, subset of this. A relation, and I mean we can take any ordered pair from this and we can call it a relation. A comma A, A comma B, A comma C is a relation on A. Yes, it is a relation between A cross A. So let A is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, the ordered pair in the relation. Now see, this is how we define the relation. R is a relation that has ordered pair A comma B such that, now this is the condition that how as I mentioned that A relates to B. Now what, how it relates to B, this is the condition: A divides B, right? So if you compute the ordered pair of A set A with itself 1, 2, 3, 4, then you will find out that this would be like let me, if we compute it over here, A cross A, it is 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma, I mean 1 1 2 3 4. Then it would be something like that: 1 comma 1, 1 comma 2, 1 comma 3, right? 1 comma 4, and then 4 comma 1, right? 4 comma 2, and 4 comma 3, 4 comma 4, right? Then uh right, okay, one, okay, then okay, from here actually I need to take it 1 comma 4, then 2 comma 1, but let me just write it, that doesn't matter since it is a set. 2 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 2 comma 3, 2 comma 4, right? And then 3 comma 1, 3 comma 2, 3 comma 3, and 3 comma 4, and then 4 comma 1, 4 comma 2, that we already have. So now the condition is R is a relation that contains the ordered pair A comma B such that A divides B. So now you can figure out what are the members of this R relation. What ordered pair are the member of this relation R. So you can see 1 comma 1, they divides each other. 1 divides 1, we already know that, that's fine, we will take it here, right? Then we see 1 divides 2, yeah, right? So that's why we'll take 1 comma 2. 1 divides 3, yes, we will take it, since 1 is the divide, I mean 1 can divide anything, so that's why 1 comma 1 2, 1 comma 3, 1 comma 4, we take it, we have taken it. Then Here you can see, does 4 divides 1? No. 4 divides 2? No. 4 divides 3? No. 4 divides 4? Yes. So we have taken this 4 comma 4 here, right? Then 2 comma 1, does 2 divides 1? No. 2 divides 2? Yes. 2 divides 2. We have taken this. Then 2 divides 3? No. 2 divides 4? Yes. We have taken it here, right? 3 divides 1? No. 3 divides 2? No. 3 divides 3? Yes. 3 divides 3. We have taken it here. Either 3 divides 4? No. So these are the only ordered pair that fulfills this condition. Then this is called a relation R such that A divides B, right? Now you understand that what is this relation R that I have mentioned you. So we defined element A is related to element B based on this relational condition. What is that condition? A divides B, right? So if two sets are given or one set is given with one condition, with one relational condition, you can easily compute the relation. Now let's have few example and then we'll see. So how many relations are there on a set A? So how many relations are possible? Now here we have seen some examples. Remember this now. So because a relation on A is the same thing as subset of A cross A, isn't it? So basically what happens, how many relation could be possible? The question is how many relation could be possible on a set A? So since how many ordered pairs we can take from here? So as much as subset we can form, right? So since R is a subset of A cross B, so how many subsets we can have? That is 2 power k from our previous definition, right? So we count the subset of A cross A. Since A cross A has n square elements, right? Since n elements in A, n elements in A, right? So n square elements in so A cross A has n square element. When A has n element, right, and a set with m elements has 2 power m subsets, take it k, right? If from our previous definition, for example, a set has m elements, right, then the subsets could be 2 power m, right? So therefore it contains n square elements. That's why we say that 2 to the power of whatever is the cardinality of A square, since n is the number of elements in A, right? So uh, I mean, there could be 2 to the power of cardinality of A square relations on a set A. So just pause it and understand what I am saying. I said if a set has n elements, then the Cartesian product A cross A would have n square element. And if it has n square element, then how much subsets could be there? So if a set A has m elements, so the subsets are 2 power m. Similarly, substitute the value of m over here. So since A cross A has a cardinality of A square elements, that's why 2 to the power of cardinality of A square would be the subsets of this one. So that much relations could be possible from a given set A, right? So let's have some example. Consider these relations on the set of integers, right? So set of integer, we already know that this set of integer is z. So R1 is a relation such that A comma B, R1 contains A comma B such that A is always less than or equal to B. So what could be the possible solution? I mean, 1 comma 1, you write 1 comma 1 could be there, 1 comma 2 could be there, 1 comma 3 could be there, and so on, right? Then R2 is a relation A comma B such that A is always greater than B. So that means now this A could be, this value should be greater than B, right? So there is a relation between A and B such that this A is always greater than this B. Then 1 comma 1 could not be a relation in this one. Then 2 comma 1 would be the relation, one of the ordered pair in this relation. Similarly, A comma B is such that either A is equal to B or A is equal to negative B. So that means this could be, they both have the same value or the opposite negative value. A comma R4 is a relation AB such that A equal to B. That means they both are the, I mean, this could be 2 comma 2, 3 comma 3, 4 comma 4, 5 comma 5, any value. They both have the same values. R5 A comma B such that A is equal to B plus 1. So that means A is always 1 more than this B value. That's what is given here. That means 3 comma 4, 5 comma 6, 9 comma 10. such those values would be part of this relation. Then R6 AB such that A plus B is always less than or equal to 3. That means if you add them, that the resultant should be less than or equal to 3. That means 1 comma 1, 1 comma 2. 2 comma 2 could not be a relation, right? So 1 comma 1 could be a relation, 1 comma 2 could be a relation, 2 comma 1 could be a relation, or negative values may be the relation, maybe in the relation, right? So note that these relations are on an infinite set, and each of these relation is an finite set. So relations are finite, but they are applied on the infinite sets. So the question is, which of these relations contain each of the pair? I mean, these pairs, right? Which of these relations contain each of the pair? So you have 6 relations given, and the question is, pairs, these pairs are related to which one? So for example, 1 comma 1, 1 comma 1 would be definite. Let's talk about R1 first. So how many could be in R1? So since they both have 1 is less than or equal to 1, right? This could be in this relation 1 comma 2, 1 is less than uh, 2. I mean, this is A value, this is B value, so this is in R1. 2 comma 1, this is not in R1, right? Why? Because you can see A is greater than 1 now, right? So this would be present in for example R2, right? So 1 comma negative 1, so this is not present in this relation as well, right? So this would be present in R3. So 2 comma 2, this could be present in this relation as well, in R4 as well, right? So here you can see the solution. Checking the condition that define each relation, we see that the pair 1 comma 1 is in R1, R3 and R4 as well as in R6. So you can see, you can pause the video and you can see why. And 1 comma 2 is in R1 and R2. 1 comma 2 is in R1 and R2. Why? Because this fulfills the condition of R1 and fulfill the condition of R2 as well, R6 as well, right? And then 2 comma 1 is in R2, R5 and R6. I mean, you can just stop here and then you can see why, because based on this condition, for example, 1 comma negative 1, right? As I just mentioned, it is in R2 and R3 and R6. See, in R2, what does it says? It says A would always be greater than B. So we can see A is greater than negative 1 is greater than negative 1. This is part of the R2. Then it is part of the R3. Why? Because 1 comma negative 1, so it says A comma B such that A equal to negative B. Yes, 1 is equal to negative 1. Then it says in R6 as well. Why R6? A comma B such that A plus B less than or equal to 3. So you can see A plus B, that is 1 minus 1, that is 0, that is always less than 3. So this is present in these type of I mean in these relations, and you need to check for all other pairs as well, right? Now, types of the relation, we have basically 4 types of the relations. One is called the reflexive relation, another one is called the symmetric relation, anti-symmetric relations, and transitive relations. So we'll see one by one what is reflexive relation, reflexive and all other things. So talking about the reflexive relations, so you can see R is a reflexive. R is reflexive if and only if we have a pair A comma A that belongs to this relation. I mean, both of the values are same for every element. A belongs to A. Written symbolically, R is reflexive if and only if, mathematically we can write it, for all X belongs to this set, a set of relations. I mean, from the universal set, X comma X belongs to R. That means that simply means the reflexive relation is of the ordered pair like this: 1 comma 1, right? 2 comma 2, right? 3 comma 3, right? 5 comma 5, right? 11 comma 11. So that means X, A and B value both are same. So that's why we call it reflexive. They have a relation with itself. These number have a relation with itself. So that's why we are saying R is reflexive if and only if A comma A belongs to R. That means A has a relation with A only, right? For every element A that belongs to A. So that's what we are saying, X comma X belong to R. So if there is a relation where we can find elements that I mean similar elements like 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2, a comma a, b comma b, x comma x, y comma y, then such type of relation is called reflexive relation. So the following relation on the integers are reflexive. So we can see that a comma b such that a is less than or equal to b. So this relation is said to be the reflexive relation. Why? Because for example, if we are talking about 1 comma 1, right, that fulfills this condition. If we are talking about uh, 1 comma 2 comma 2, that also fulfills this condition, right? A is equal to b. So that's why we call it similarly, uh, a comma b are 3, a is equal to b, right? So obviously this is also the reflexive, both values are equal. Similarly, I mean the relation 4, that is also the reflexive relation, right? So the following relations are not reflexive. We can see that a comma b, a is such that a is greater than b, so this is obviously not reflexive. Why? 3 comma, if we take 3 comma 3, so based on this, a is not greater than 3, right? So that's why this 3 comma 3 does not belong to R2. Similarly, a is a comma b such that a is equal to b plus 1. Again, this is not the reflexive relation. Why? Because a comma b, if we take 3 comma 3, right, so 3 comma 3, again you can see that, so a should be b plus 1, that means 4 comma 3 could be there, but 3 comma 3 is not there. But 4 comma 3 is not reflexive, since 3 comma 3 is reflexive, right? So that's why this is also not a reflexive relation. Then a plus b less than or equal to 3, this is again not a reflexive relation. Why? Because when we add two values, for example 4 plus 2, 4 plus 4, I mean if we take 4 comma 4, right, any value, right? Okay, let me take 2 comma 2 for example. So 2 comma 2 is 4, right? So that is again not less than or equal to 3. So that's why this is not a reflexive relation. Clear? So reflexive relations are the relations that have when element A has a relation with itself. Remember this. So if A is an empty set, then the empty relation is reflexive, obviously, right? That is, the empty relation on an empty set is reflexive. Clear? Symmetric relation. What is symmetric relation? Let's see the definition. R is symmetric if and only if B comma A belongs to R whenever A comma B belongs to R, right? For all A comma B belongs to A, written symbolically, right? R is symmetric if and only if for all X, for all Y, X comma Y belongs to R implies Y comma X also belongs to R. That means if you have a relation where we have the ordered pair like 3 comma 5, then 5 comma 3 should also be there, right? If 3 comma 5 and 5 comma 3 both are present, we call such relation is a symmetric relation. Clear? So for example, if you have 9 comma 11, then it also contain 11 comma 9, right? So that's called the symmetric relation, right? So that's what it says here. For all X, for all Y, if X comma Y belongs to R, so Y comma X belongs to R, right? So that's the implication relation. So the following relation on the integers are symmetric, so you can prove that. For example, R3 is a symmetric. Why? Because A comma B, whenever A is equal to B or A is equal to negative B, then I mean this is the symmetric relation. For example, if you have a relation where value is 3 comma 3, right, or 3 comma 4 for example, right? uh, I'm sorry, this pen is always disturbing, right? So let's say for example, if we have a relation, since A equal to B, right, so 3 comma 3, so that is always a symmetric relation, right? 3 comma 3 is 3 comma 3 in either ways, or 3 comma negative 3, right? So if we have a 3 comma negative 3, right, then there should always be negative 3 comma 3. So that is again the a symmetric relation. So relation 4 from the previous example, A comma B, when A is equal to B, that is symmetric, right? We can see that A equal to A comma B such that A plus B less than or equal to 3 is also symmetric. For example, a relation that for example 1 comma 2, 1 comma 2 is part of this relation, right? We can see that that is 3 less than or equal to, then 2 comma 1 is also part of this relation. So I mean there is a symmetry of relation, symmetry of ordered pair in this relation. So the following are not the symmetric relation. We can observe that R1 where A comma B such that A is less than or equal to B. So this is not the symmetric. Why? Because if 3 is less than or equal to 4, but then 4 is not less than or equal to, I mean, if we have a ordered pair like 3 comma 4 and 4 comma 3 based on the symmetry, right? So but then this does not fulfill this condition, since 3 is less than 4 but 4 is not less than 3 or neither equal to 3, right? That's why this relation is not a symmetric relation. Similarly, A is greater than B. Since 3 is greater, I mean 4 is greater than 3, but 3 is not greater than 4. That's why this this all condition also does not fulfill the says that this is a symmetric relation. Similarly, A is equal to B plus 1. So this is again not a symmetric relation. Why? Because if you take this 4, then this is 3 plus 1, but 3 is not equal to 4 plus 1. We know that. I mean, that's why this is not the symmetric relation. Clear? All right. Now this anti-symmetric relation. Anti-symmetric is just opposite of the symmetric relation. That says if you have a relation, I mean, for example, see the definition: a relation R on a set A such that for all A comma B belongs to A, if A comma B belongs to R and B comma A also belongs to R, then A and B should be equal. I mean that means that they are same. Is called the antisymmetric relation. What does that mean is, if there is a relation, for example, 3 comma 4 for example is an ordered pair, and 4 comma 3 is also there, then this is a symmetric, right? But in antisymmetric it says these values should be the same value. That means it's 3 comma 3 could be the anti-symmetric relation, right? So it is the symmetric as well as the anti-symmetric relation. It is as well as the reflexive relation. But then, for example, if there is an A comma B, right, and B comma A as well. So, but then this is not, if they both are the different value, they are not equal, then this is called anti-symmetric values, right? Anti-symmetric relation, right? So for all x, for all y, symbolically or mathematically, we can say that for all x, for all y, x comma y belong to R and y comma x is also there, belong to R, right? Then it implies x and y both are same values, right? If this is true, then we call it anti-symmetric relation. And if it is not true, then obviously we call it symmetric relation. I mean, symmetric relation means if x comma y is there, then y comma x should be there. But it says x comma y is there as well as y comma x is there, and this implies that x comma y, they have x and y are equal, right? So the following relation on the integers are antisymmetric. We can say that a comma b, a is less than or equal to b. This is antisymmetric. Why? Because for any integer, if a is less than or equal to b and a is less than or equal to b, um, then a is equal to b. I mean, we can say that for any integer, a is where a is less than or equal to b. For example, 2 comma 4, right? Right? We can say that, and okay, this could be b. This should be b less than or equal to a, right? B less than or equal to a, and then that does not holds. So uh, if this is true, then if it would only be true when we have 2 comma 2, right? And then we can say that this is true, right? So similarly, all of the conditions you can check it out, and you can see that these relations are the antisymmetric relations, and these two relations are not antisymmetric relation, right? So you can just pause and you can observe some values, and you can substitute it, and you can figure out that how these relations are antisymmetric and how they are not antisymmetric. Transitive relation. Transitive relation is a relation R on a set A is called transitive if whenever you have a ordered pair A comma B belongs to R, and you have B comma C belongs to R, then A and C, A comma C also should be there, belongs to R. That means if you have something like this, like for example, you have 2 comma 4, right? And 4 comma 6 is already there, also there, then it there should also be 2 comma 6. right? That is transitivity. So if 2 comma 4 is there, 4 comma 6 is there, I mean b, a comma b and b comma c, right? Then it says a comma c should also be there, 2 comma 6, right? So if these type of ordered pair are present, we call it the transitive relation, right? So we can write mathematically, for all x, for all y, for all z, x comma y belongs to R and y comma z belongs to R. That implies x comma z also belongs to R, right? So it should be there if we call it a transitive relation, right? And then from the examples we can see that a comma b such that a is less than or equal to b is a transitive relation, right? Why? Because for every integer a less than b, right, and b less than or equal to c, it holds that a is a less than or equal to c. This is a, right? This is a less than or equal to c. Clear? Right? So you can just stop and you can substitute some values and put some examples, and then you can observe that these are the transitive relation. If you can understand the definition, these are not the transitive relation. Again, transitive relation is if you have two relations, a comma b and b comma c, then a comma c should also be there. That then we call it a transitive relation, right? So let me say, just for example, here, let me come back to the previous slides where we have computed these relations, A cross A, right? So now tell me, if I say find out R1 is a relation, R1 is a relation that is, I mean, find out the reflexive relation out of this one, right? So if R1 is a reflexive relation, then what could be the values in R1? So that would be 1 comma 1, isn't it? 1 2 comma 2, right? Reflexive relation 3 comma 3 and 4 comma 4. So reflexive relation has a relation when a equal to b. Okay, R2 is a relation that is symmetric. So can we figure out the symmetric? Can we have a symmetric relation here? R2, since relation is subset of A cross A, right? So R2 could be, uh, if we have 1 comma 1 should be there, right? Since, okay, so we have 1 comma 2 and we have 2 comma 1 as well, so that we can write 1 comma 2 and 2 comma 1, right? Clear? Then we have 1 comma 3 as well as we have 3 comma 1, 1 comma 3 and 3 comma 1. Then we have 1 comma 4 as well as 4 comma 1, 3 1 comma, come on, okay, okay, so 1 comma 4 and 4 comma 1, we have these values, right? And then see, can we compute 4 comma 2? Yes, we have 2 comma 4 and 4 comma 2 both, 4 comma 2 and 2 comma 4, right? So we can choose them, 2 comma 4 and 4 comma 2, right? 4 comma 3, do we have 3 comma 4 as well? Yes, we have 3 comma 4. So all the values that we will, if we choose those values, then this is called, and if you see this whole A cross A is basically the symmetric relation, right? So in a symmetric relation, you will, all the values will be here, right? And if, say for example, I say R3 such that, let me say R3 is a transitive relation. So transitive relation, if you need to compute a transitive relation, you will choose only, so for example, if you have 1 comma 1, then that is fine, 1 comma 1 is okay. Then if you have 1 comma 2 and you have 2 comma, for example, if you have 1 comma 2 and you have 2 comma 3, that means 1 comma 3 will also be there, right? So based on this one, right, just to give you the example, obviously 1 comma 3 is already there, that you directly choose, but you will choose because this is 1 comma 2 and 2 comma 3, right? Since this is b value, this is b value, so then that's why 1 comma 3 you will choose. So like this, we can, given a set values, we can choose what are the, we can figure out what is the transitivity, reflexivity and symmetry or antisymmetry for different relations, right? Now we can always combine the relations, since our relations are nothing but the sets, right? So we can always combine with union, intersection and the minus operation, right? So for example, For example, A is 1 2 3 and B is 1 2 3 4. Then I mean, we can see that relation. We have R1 1 1 2 2 3 3 and a relation R2 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4. They can be combined using basic set operations. For example, if you want to take the union or intersection, union means you will combine all the elements from ordered pair from R1 and R2, and you will write it. For example, 1 1 is there, you will choose 1 1 1 2 1 3 1 4 2 2 and 3 3. That would be the union, right? Isn't it clear? And then intersection. For the intersection, you will choose the intersecting ordered pair from R1 and R2. For example, 1 1. For example, that's it, right? So you will choose only 1 1 because r1 1 1 is present in both the sets. And then the subtraction. So r1 minus r1 minus r2 means all the ordered pair present in r2 that are not present in r1, so that you will choose based on this one. For example, r1 r2, all the ordered pair present in r1 but not in r2. For example, 2 2 3 3, 1 1 is present here, 2 2 is not present, 3 3 is not present. That's why R1 R2. And R2 R1, if we choose all the elements, all the ordered pair that are present in R2 but not in R1. So for example, 1 1 and 1 1 is there, then 1 1 2 1 3 and 1 4 would be the R2 minus R1, right? So in this way we can apply all the set operations, union, intersection and subtraction, in order to combine the relations. Okay, next. We can also compose two relations, as we can compose two functions, if you remember from the functions that we have discussed, f of g or g of f, right? Similarly, we can have the composition of the relation. Suppose R1 is a relation from a set A to set B, and R2 is a relation from set B to set C. Then the composition or the composite of R2 with R1 is reflect a relation from A to C directly. See, if R1 is A to B and R2 is B to C, so then if you compose R1 and R2, that is directly A to C, right? So if XY is a member of R1 and YXZ is a member of R2, then XZ is a member of R2 composed with R1. So this is similar to the functions, and then if you can see, this is similar to the transitivity of the relation, right? Here is one example. So if we have a relation such that a relation with A to M and a relation R2 from M to this one, right? So A is related with P, B is related with M, right? And similarly, M is related with X, M is related with Z, and N is related with W. So we see that we can find out R1 composition of R1 and R2 by this one, right? We can take these elements. B can be direct. B comma X is also composed, and B comma Z is also composed. We can take these two elements and then we can find a composition of these two relations, right? R1 composed with R2. And in this way, we can compose as many as relations we want, R1, R2, R3, R4, and you can compose as many relations as we want. If there are if since, I mean, again, see the definition. See the definition. If x comma y is a member of R1 and y comma z is member of R2, then only x comma z is member of R2 comma R2 composed with R1, right? Okay. Powers of relation. um, how we can compute the power of the different relation. Let R be a binary relation on A, right? Then the powers Rn of the relation R can be defined inductively by basic step is R1. I mean, if R1 you are going to compute R to the power of n, that means R1 is equal to R, and then obviously Rn plus 1 is Rn or composed with R. And then for that, you can see the textbook for the proof and for different examples that obviously is not discussed here. You can see the textbook and then we can figure it out. The powers of a transitive relation are subset of the relation. This is established by the following theorem. So we can say that the relation R on a set A is transitive if and only if Rn is subset of R for all n greater than 1, I mean n greater than or equal to 1, right? So again, the proof of this theorem is given in the book that I'm leaving for you to go and see in the textbook, right? But then you can always find out the I mean as many as r a composition of r's, and then the composition of r's is basically the power of a relation. Okay, now let's see how we can represent the relations. We can represent the relation as mentioned earlier with the help of the graphs and with help of the with the help of the table. Here we say that those tabular method is basically we can represent it with the matrix, right? If you remember the tabular method from the first or second slide. So let's see how we can represent the relation using a matrices. So let me directly move to the example and then we will come back to this slide, right? So for example, suppose that you have a set A with the element 1 2 3 and a set B with the element 1 2 only. Let R be the relation from A to B containing A comma B if A belongs to A and B belongs to B and A is greater than B. I mean the simple relation A comma B such that A is greater than B. What is the metric representation, right, of R? So what actually we do, first of all, compute this relation. So the relation is A greater than B, so that will contain 2 comma 1 3 comma 1 and 3 comma 2 only, right? Since I mean you can find when you will do the A cross B, you will find a lot of ordered pair, but this relation will contain only those ordered pair that fulfills this condition, that is A greater than B. And since we have formed this relation, now we can represent it with the help of this matrix. How we can represent, you on the row side we use the element of set A, and what are the element of set A? That is 1 2 and 3. And on the column side we use the element of set B. What are those? 1 and 2. What do we do actually? See, what is the relation 2 comma 1? For 2 comma 1 means 2 comma 1, 2 comma 1 is 2 1, and in that particular cell, that particular index, we write 1. Same 3 comma 1, for 3 comma 1 we write 1, right? 3 comma 2, for 3 comma 2, that is this intersection, we just write 1 here, and all other cells are zeros, right? And fill all other with the zeros, right? So that means this is a 0 1 matrix, right? We can always represent the relation with a 0 1 matrix by writing the first set elements on the row side and the elements of the second set at the column side, and wherever we have a relation we just write 1 on for that relation, and wherever we do not have a relation we just write 0 for that, right? So now let's see this definition. So a relation between finite sets can be represented using a 0 1 matrix, right? So suppose this is 0 1 matrix. Remember, as I mentioned in the example, suppose R is a relation from A, that is A1 A2 up to AM, to B B1 B2 up to Bn. The elements of the two sets can be listed in any particular arbitrary order where A is equal to B, right? We use the same ordering. So the relation R is represented by the matrix MR such that Mij, at that Ij index value, it would be 1 if this ordered pair belong to R, and that would be 0 if this ordered pair does not belong to R. That what we did in the example, right? So the metric representing R has a 1 as its I comma j entry, and AI is related to Bj, and a 0 if AI is not related to Bj. That we just discussed in this example. So for example, if a metric is given such that set A is A1, A2, A3, and set B is B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. So which ordered pair are in the relation of this R? If this matrix is given, and if someone asks you what is the relation or what are the ordered pair from this set, so you can easily figure out this is A1, this is A2, this is A3, this is B1, B2, B3, B4, and this is B5. So wherever is 1, that means A1 comma B2 is one ordered pair present there, right? Then where is the one next one? A2 comma B1. A2 comma B1 is present. Then A2 comma B3 is present. Then A2 comma B4 is present because of this one. Then next one A3 comma B1 is present. Then next one is this one A3 comma B3 present. Then next this one, that is a3 comma a5. So the if the metric is given, we can easily identify what ordered pair are present in this relation, or if the ordered pair are given, you can easily form a matrix for those ordered pair, right? See, now if R is a reflexive relation, remember, that has a relation with itself, like 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 3 comma 3, 4 comma 4, right? If it is a reflexive relation, all the elements on the diagonal will always be 1. Why? Because this is 1 comma 1, this is 2 comma 2, this is 3 comma 3, 4 comma 4, 5 comma 5, n comma n. So that's why if a relation, if you can see from a matrix whether the relation is a reflexive relation or not, you can easily figure out if all the diagonals are 1, that means they have a relation with itself. Then you can say that this is a reflexive relation, right? What about the symmetric relation? If and only if mij equal to 1, whenever mgi is also 1. For example, this one, this is for example 2 comma 1, right? Then 1 comma 2 should also be 1. If both are 1, then for all the pairs, then we call it a symmetric relation. See, if for example 1 comma 2 is 1 and then 2 comma 1 is also 1, then only we say, I mean, for all the ones we will check. For example, from here, if we can see, for example, this is um, okay, for this one, what is this one? This is 1 comma 2, right? Then 2 comma 1 is also 1, right? Similarly here, then if you see this one, this is 2 comma 3. Is 3 comma 2 also a 1? No, this is not a 1. If this is a 1, also we need to check for all the ones. If all the I mean the corresponding ones are available, we call it a symmetric relation. Otherwise we call it, we cannot say this is a symmetric or this is not symmetric relation, right? Similarly, for the antisymmetric relation, R is an antisymmetric relation if and only if Mij is equal to 0 or Mji is also 0 whenever I and j are not same. So I mean, for example, one there is one for this one, 1 comma 2 is 1 and 2 comma 1 is 0. So in that case, this is antisymmetric, this is not symmetric. If the corresponding one, there is also one, that then it is symmetric, otherwise it is antisymmetric, right? Say for example, for this 0 we have a 1, right? For example, this one is whatever 3 comma 2 and then 2 comma 3 is 1. So that's why this is antisymmetric, right? So let's say for example, for understand this example, suppose that the relation R on a set is represented by this matrix, right? So you need to find, is it reflexive? Is R reflexive? So let's see, all the diagonals are 1. Quickly, that means 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2, 3 comma 3, these pairs are present in the relation. So that's why this is reflexive. Symmetric, is it symmetric? So let's see all the ones, 1 comma 1, that's already, that's 1 comma 2, 2 comma 1 is there. Then this is 2 comma 2, but that is fine. But then this is 2 comma 3, 2 comma is 3 comma 2, 3 comma 2 is this one, they both have 1, fine. So this is symmetric as well, right? Since all, you can see they have the corresponding I mean, 1 values, that's why this is the symmetric as well. See, is it antisymmetric or not? Antisymmetric means if they have 1, this is 1, this should be 0, this is 1, this should be 0. So that's why this is not the antisymmetric. So here you can see this is symmetric, but it is not the antisymmetric, it is reflexive as well. So if the metric is given, you can easily identify whether the relation is reflexive relation, symmetric relation, or antisymmetric relation, right? Okay. The other way of representation of the this relation is the graph method, or the digraphs, or the directed graph. So what is a digraph? We'll see, we will cover this concept of the graphs in the coming video, or in the coming lecture, that is chapter number 10, that is about the graphs. So but just to give you the idea, a directed graph, or in short we call it a digraph, it consists of set of vertices. So these are the vertices A, B, C, D, they are said to be the vertices, right? Together with a set of edges, these lines, this connection from A to B, A to C, these are called edges, right? A set of E of ordered pair of element V called edges, right? So the vertex A is called the initial vertex of the edge A comma B, and the vertex B is called the terminal vertex of this edge. So an edge of this form A comma is A is called a loop. For example, B comma B is a loop. So for example, we want to draw this, I mean, we have given this relation and we want to draw it. A comma B. So from A to B. So the direction of the arrow is from A to B, right? We have an edge. A to D. Similarly, from A to D, we have an arrow, we have an edge with this arrow from A to D. B to B. So that is the reflexive one. B to B, that is called a loop. B is connected with B, that is called a loop. B to D. From B to D, we have this arrow, right? B to D. Then C to A. C to A, you can see with this arrow. C to B, we can see that we have a edge from C to B with this arrow. We draw this, right? And D to B, from D to B we need to draw like this. From the given ordered pair, from a given relation, we can represent it using a digraph. So we can see that, I mean, this relation is given and we can compute the equivalent directed graph, right? So the example is, what are the okay, for example, now the other way around, the digraph is given and you are asked to find the ordered pairs from it. So what are the ordered pair in the relation represented by this directed graph, right? So you can see here, starting from 1, we have the relation 1. Can we have 1 comma 1? No. 1 comma 2? No, since this is 2 comma 1, not 1 comma 2. 1 comma 3? Yes, right? 1 comma 3. Then do we have 1 comma 4? Yes, we can see this one, 1 comma 4. Now go to 2. Do we have 2 with 1? Yes, 2 comma 1 is there, right? We have, this is a loop, 2 comma 2 is there, right? 2 comma 3, since the arrow direction is there, 2 comma 3 is there. Do we have 2 comma 4? No, 2 comma 4 is not a part of this relation. Then 3 comma 1, do we have 3 comma 1? Yes, we have a 3 comma edge on 3 comma 1. That's why we included this ordered pair. 3 comma 2, do we have 3 comma 2? No, we do not have a 3 comma 2 edge, right? That then 3 have a loop, 3 has a loop, that's why 3 comma 3, right? Then do we have 3 with 4? No. 4 comma 1, yes, we have a 4 comma 1 relation. 4 comma 2, no. 4 comma 3, yes. So from a given directed graph, you can always compute a relation, or you can always compute a ordered pair, right? Okay, so now can we determine the property of the relation from a given digraph? So let's say if we want to check the reflexivity. So if you remember, reflexive, this is 2 comma 2, right? So in a reflexive relation, so every node should have a loop. I mean that 1 comma 1 should be present, 2 comma 2 should be present, 3 comma 3 should be present, 4 comma 4 must be present. So that's why it says, if you want to check the reflexivity, a loop must be present at all vertices in the graph, right? Clear? If the loop is present on the all vertices in the graph, we call it a reflexive relation. Symmetric. If x comma y is an edge, then so is y comma x. That means if 1 comma 4 has an edge, then 4 comma y should have an edge. Then we call it a symmetric relation, right? Clear? Okay. Antisymmetric. If x comma y is present such that x is not equal to y is an edge, then y comma x is not an edge. So if x comma y is there, then there must not be y comma x, right? That if that is true, then we call it, the relation is antisymmetric. Transitivity. If there is a relation x comma y and y comma x are the edges, then there should also be an edge from x to z. I mean, there is an edge x from x to y and y to z, then there should be direct edge from y to z as well. Let's see, is it over here? So for example, here from 1 to 4, I mean 1 comma 4 and 4 comma 3, right? We have two ordered pairs, 1 comma 4 and 4 comma 3, but then we have 1 comma 3 directly. So that then we can say that this is also transitive, right? We can test it from this diagram. Clear? So here is an example. Determine whether this relation is reflexive, symmetric, antisymmetric, or transitive. Since all the nodes does not contain loop, only A contain loop, that's why this could not be reflexive, right? So the relation is not reflexive. Is it symmetric? Since no edges are present, so obviously this is trivially this is symmetric. I mean, if there is A comma B, then we need to find a B comma A. A comma B is not present, so B comma A is not present. That's why this is symmetric. Antisymmetric, yes, since there is no edge. I mean, if there is A to B, then we need to check whether it contains the edge B to A or not. Since trivially it is antisymmetric, since there are no edges present. Is it transitive? Since there are no edges present, so trivially we can say that yes, it is transitive. If there is an edge from A to C, and then we need and there is an edge from C to B, then only we need to check is whether there is an edge from A to B or not. So the edges are not present. Trivially, it is yes, it is transitive. See from here, is it reflexive? This graph of can we see that this relation is reflexive? No, none of the node, none of the vertex has the loop, so that's why it is not reflexive. Is it symmetric? Let's see. If we have a relation from A to B, but we do not have B comma A, I mean from B to A, we do not have an edge from B to A, that's why it is not symmetric. Is it antisymmetric? Since there is an edge from B to D and there is also an edge from D to B. So this, because of this is not antisymmetric. If it is B to D, there must not be an edge from D to B. Is it transitive? No, it is not transitive. Why? Because there is an edge from A to B and there is from a relation from B to D, but there is no direct pair available from A to D. So that's why it is not transitive. Clear? So from a given graph, from a given directed graph, you can easily predict whether the relation, what type of relation is it. Okay, see this example, whether it is reflexive or not. This is not reflexive. None of the node vertex has a loop on that. Is it symmetric? Well, there is a pair from A to B, but B to A is not present. A to C is present, but C to A is not present, right? B, C to B is present, but B to C is not, B comma C is not present. That's why it is not symmetric. Is it antisymmetric? Since it is not symmetric, this will definitely be the antisymmetric. Why? Because A comma B is present and B comma A is not present. That's why it is antisymmetric. Is it transitive? See, there is an edge from A to B. Oh, okay, A to C and from C to B, and then there is a direct from A to B. That means A comma B and C comma B, and that means A comma B is also there. So that's why this is a transitive relation. Clear? From this graph, let's see example number 4. Is it reflexive? No, this is not reflexive. The obvious reason is none of the uh, vertex has a loop on that. Is it symmetric? No, it is not symmetric. Why? Because A comma D is there, B comma C is there, but C comma B and D comma A is not there. Is it antisymmetric? Since it is not symmetric, this will definitely be antisymmetric. Is it transitive? Since there is not, I mean, A comma D is there, I mean, but D comma other node is not present. So trivially, this no edges are present. So trivially, we can say that this is transitive, right? So the power of a relation, how we can compute the power of a relation? So this is R. If you compose R with R, we can find out R square. So this is R. If you take the composition of R with R, so how you can take the composition of R with R? We already understood that if there is a relation from A to B, and then A comma, I mean, then you can see, then if this is B to C, you can directly take A comma C, and you will skip these two edges, right? A comma B and B comma C, you will skip that. I mean, if you represent it like this one, you have A, B, C, D, you have A, B, C, D, and then you have A, B, C, and D, right? So this is set X, this is I mean R1, R2, and R3. So you have A to B, and here it has B to C, right? So it means you can directly have A to C that we have here in this one, right? And all other are computed likewise, right? So you can compute R2, and if you take you want to compute more power R3, then you have to take this R2 with R. I mean, take the composition of R and R2. You will figure it out. Then R2, whatever you have computed, R3 with R again, you will figure it out. I mean, so in this way you can compute the power of relations, and there are a lot of questions available in exercise that you need to solve for the practice, right? Okay, now let's talk about what do we mean by the equivalence of the relations. So a relation on a set A is called an equivalence relation if it is reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. If a relation has all three properties, that it is a reflexive relation, symmetric relation, and transitive relation, then we call this relation as an equivalence relation. Clear? What do I mean by that? So for example, R1 is a relation that contains the element 1 comma 1, right? Then it contains 1 comma 2, and come on, just 1 minute. Okay, then it contains 1 comma 2, and then it also contains 2 comma 1, right? Then it contains 1 comma, okay, 2 comma 3, right? And 3 comma 2 as well. And then it also contains 1 comma 3, right? 1 comma 3 and 3 comma 1. So this relation, if you can see, this is a reflexive relation. 1 comma 1 is there, 2 comma 2 is, I mean, 1, oh, I mean, this is there. No, this there should be 2 comma 2 and 3 comma 3 as well. 2 comma 2 and 3 comma 3 should also be there as well. Since we are taking three nodes for every node, it should be the reflexive, right? And then you can see, is it symmetric? Yes, since 1 comma 2 is there, 2 comma 1 is there, 2 comma 3 is there, so that the symmetry is there. Then it is it transitive? You can see, since 1 comma, okay, 2, so since 1 comma 2 is there and 2 comma 3 is there, then there should be 1 comma 3 as well. So 1 comma 3 is also there. So this relation is called equivalence relation that fulfill all three properties: reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. So such relations are called equivalence relation. Then two elements, A and B, that are related by an equivalence relation means this one, 1 comma 2, right? A comma B, this A comma B ordered pair, that is part of any A comma B that is part of this relation, right? They are called equivalent, and we use this notation for representing the equivalent members. A equivalent to B is often used to denote that A and B are equivalent elements with respect to a particular equivalence relation. All right, say the example to show you the equivalence relation, right? So let's say the example. Suppose that R is the relation on the set of strings of English letters, such that A is related to B if and only if both have the same length, right? I mean, L comma A is equal to L of B, where L comma X is the length of the string, right? Is R an equivalence relation or not? So let's figure it out. I mean, A is related to B, A has a relation with B only when, I mean, such that both have the equal length. So let's see, is it reflexive? I mean, in order to check the equivalence relation, we need to check the reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. So let's check whether it is reflexive or not. So since L comma is equal to L comma B, so definitely L comma is equal to L comma A. I mean, both have the same. So that means if A comma, I mean, A and B both are present, both are there, then it means L comma A is also equal to L comma A, L comma B is also equal to L comma B. So that follows the reflexivity of the relation. Symmetry. Suppose that A is related to B, since L of A equal to L of B, so that L of B equal to L of A. So that holds the symmetry relation. Transitivity. Suppose that A is related to B and B is related to C, then L comma A is equal to L comma B, and L comma B is also equal to L comma C, since that is the condition of this relation. So that also holds the transitivity relation. So since this relation holds reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. That's why we can call this relation of strings is a equivalence relation. Congruence modulo m relation, right? For example, let m be an integer with m greater than 1. Show that the relation a comma b, a concurrent b modulo m, is an equivalence relation on the set of these strings. So you can recall from the previous lecture of the number theory that a congruence b modulo m if and only if m divides a minus b, right? So this is only true, this relation only holds only true when m divides a minus b, right? So let's now check the reflexivity. Since a equal to a modulo m, since a minus a is equal to 0 is divisible by m, so that's why it is reflexible. Is it symmetry? So let's see, suppose that a equal to a congruent to b modulo m, then a minus b is divisible by m. We know that, right? That's why. And so a minus b equal to km, remember from the number theory where k is an integer, it follows that b minus a equal to minus km, right? So b equal to a mod m as well, a b congruent to a modulo m as well. So if a is congruent to b modulo m, so b congruent to a modulo m as well, so it holds the symmetry as well, right? Now let's say the transitivity. Suppose that A congruent to B modulo M and B congruent to C modulo M. Then M divides both A minus B and B minus C as per the definition of the number theory in the of the modulo I mean congress modulo, right? Hence there are integers K and L with A minus B equal to Km. We have proven that in the previous video. B minus C equal to Lm. So we obtain that adding the equations, I mean, you will get Km plus Lm equal to, I mean, so this that means therefore A is congruent to C modulo M. So it also holds the transitivity. So that's why we can say that this A comma B relation A comma B such that A congruent to B modulo M is a equivalent relation, right? Now let's see the division, right? So show that the divides relation on the set of positive integer is not an equivalent relation, is not an equivalent relation. So we need to show that. So the properties of the reflexivity and transitivity do hold, right? But there are relation is not transitive. So let's see. There are some relations that are not transitive in that. So hence divides it not. So for example, reflexivity, if A divides B for all, we have A divides A for all A values. That's the reflexivity. Symmetry. For example, 2 divides 4, but 4 does not divide 2, so symmetry fails. If symmetry fails, we can say that this relation is not equivalence. Let's see the transitivity again. Suppose that A divides B and B divides C, then there are positive integer K and L such that A equal to B, B equal to A K and C equal to BL. So this means A C equal to A into KL. So that means A divides C as well. We know that, we have proven it in the previous video, right? So it holds the transitivity, it holds the reflexivity, but it does not hold the symmetry. So that's why divides relation is not equivalence relation, right? Now let's see what are the equivalence classes. So let R be an equivalence relation on a set A. The set of all elements that are related to an element A of A is called the equivalence class of A. So we actually basically have the classes, right? So the equivalence class of A with respect to R is denoted by A with these brackets, right? And AR, right? So when only one relation is under consideration, we can write only A and without R, right? Note that A of R equal to S such that A comma S belongs to this relation. So let's say if B belongs to AR, then B is called a representative of this equivalence class, right? This A is basically the representative of that class. Any element of a class can be used as a representative of the class. Any element we can choose for the representation. The equivalence classes of the relation congruence modulo M are called the congruence classes modulo M. The congruence class of an integer a modulo M is denoted by AM. So for the modulo class, we use AM, right? So AM is equal to, we can see that, I mean, so on. So A minus 2M, A minus M, A plus 2M, and A plus 2M, and so on. I mean, since this is the modulo class, right? For example, with the module m equal, when m equal to 4, we can have, I mean, modulo with the 0. This 0 is the class representative, right? So that means from 0 we can go either -4, -8, 4 plus 4, and with the modulo of 4, right? Starting with the 0, I mean, that contains the 0. If 1 is representative, I mean, from 1 to 4, we can see that 1 with 4, 5, 9, then 13, right? And in the negative side as well. Similarly, from 2, I mean, you can see with, if this modulo is 4, if modulo is 5, then definitely you are going to have 2, 7, right? And then 12, but this is for 2, 6, 12, and so on. And similarly in the negative side as well. Similarly, I mean, for the 3, I mean, you can compute it for 3 as well, right? And now let's see the theorem about the equivalence classes and the partitions. Let R be an equivalence relation on a set A, right? R is a equivalence relation on set A. Then, these statements of, for elements A and B of A are equivalent, right? For example, A should be related to B. A has a relation with B. Again, let's read this theorem. Let R be an equivalence relation on a set A. These statements for elements A and B of A are equivalent. What does that mean? A and B that has a relation, they are also equivalent. A, I mean, that is the representative of this class, is equal to B, that is also representative of another equivalence class. And A intersection B would be an empty set, right? So we show that one, that is A or B, A has a relation with B, implies two. Assume that A is related with B. Now suppose that C belongs to A, then A belongs to C as well. A has a relation with C as well, because A has a relation with B and R is symmetric, so B has a relation with A as well, right? So because R is transitive and B has a relation with A and A has a relation with C, so it follows that B has a relation with C as well, right? Because of the transitivity. Hence, C is a member of this B class B as well. So therefore, A is the subset of B. A similar argument shows that B is also subset of A. So you can see the textbook, the proofs are available there, that how we have proved that. So just go through the book, and if there are some questions, we can discuss over the Zoom meeting, right? So now let's see one other concept that is called the partition of a set. Since the relations are basically on the set, so we can see a relation is the Cartesian product of two sets. So it actually partitions this set into different parts. So we see a partition of a set S is a collection of disjoint non-empty subsets of S that have S as their union. So what does that mean? If this is a set S, if this is a set S, then there are several subsets A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, right? And these subsets are partitioned into smaller subsets, right? I mean, they are called the subset of this S, the partition of this S. And if you take the union of all these partitions, you will always get the set S again, right? In other words, the collection of subset AI, where I belongs to the index number, forms a partition of S if and only if. So if it forms a partition if it fulfills these three conditions. What are those conditions? AI is not empty. So none of the subset or the partition of this set subset S is empty set, right? And if you take the intersection of two partitions of this subset of this S, so this they will always be of empty set. I mean, that means there are no overlapping elements between A1 and A2. Between one partition and another partition, there are no overlapping elements. And if you take the union of, third condition is if you take the union of all the partitions, you will always get the set S, right? Now, let's see an equivalence relation partition as partitions a set. So for example, let R be an equivalence relation on a set S. The union of all the equivalence classes of R is all of A. Since an element A of A is its own equivalence class A, it in other words, so if you take the union of all the equivalence classes, right, then it will give you the original A set. So from the theorem 1, that is in the previous here, from this theorem, it follows that these equivalence classes are either equal or disjoint. So that's why these two classes will, when you take the intersection, they will return in the in the empty set, right? So that means these two representative classes, equivalence classes, are not same, they are not equal, right? Therefore the equivalence classes form a partition of A because they split A into disjoint subsets, right? So there is another theorem. Let R be an equivalence relation on a set S, then the equivalence class of R form a partition of S. Conversely, given a partition AI such that I belongs to the index number of the set S, there is an equivalence relation R that has the sets I belongs to I. I mean, this is simple theorem that that says that if there is a relation R on a set S, then it has, I mean, it is related to the, it creates different partitions, and then based on those partitions in the set, we can call every partition is basically called the equivalence class. And the proof is written over here. This is simple. You can just pause and read what is the proof, and then refer to the textbook for the examples, right? Fine. Now let's see the last topic of this video lecture, that is the partial ordering. What do we mean by the partial ordering? Similarly, we have the equivalence relation, we have the partial relation. So partial ordering is a relation R on a set S is called partial ordering or partial order if it is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive, right? So what was the equivalence relation? Equivalence relation was reflexive, symmetric, and transitive. That was the these equivalence relation. And the partial order is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive, right? A set together with an partial ordering R is called a partially ordered set, or poset. In short, we call it poset, and is denoted by S comma R, right? So that means S is the partial set, poset on relation R, right? So member of S are called elements of the posets, right? Okay, so here is one example. Show that the greater than or equal relation is a partially ordering on the set of integers. Now, how we can say that, how we can prove that? Similarly, for the equivalence, we were checking the reflexivity, symmetry, and transitivity. Here we will check reflexivity, antisymmetry, and the transitivity. Let's check A greater than A for every integer A. That's true. That's why this is the reflexive. Antisymmetry, if A is greater than B and B is greater than A, then they should be equivalent to B, otherwise this does not hold. For example, if A is equal to 3 and B is equal to 4, then A is greater than B, but B is not greater than A, right? So that's why this is the I mean, if this is true, then it means they are same. I mean, they both have 3, 3, right? So that's why this is the antisymmetry. Transitivity, if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then A is definitely greater than C. So if this is true, then this greater than or equal to relation is partial ordering of this relation, right? Example 2, show that the divisibility relation is a partial ordering on the set of integers. Remember, divisibility relation is not a equivalence relation. We have proven that. Why? Because it does not contain the symmetry. property, it does not hold the symmetry, right? So if it does not hold the symmetry, then definitely it holds the antisymmetry, right? If it holds the antisymmetry, it is the reflexive as well, it is the transitive as well. That's why it is the partial ordering. So we already seen that this is reflexive. How it is the antisymmetry? If a and b are positive integers, when a divides b, then b also divides a. That only true when a and b both are the same number. So that's why we call it the partial ordering. So divisibility relation is partial ordering on the set of integers. One more example, show that the inclusion relation, I mean that is the subset relation, is a partial ordering on the power set of a set S. So is it reflexive? A is always a power set, a subset of A. That's why we call it the reflexive. Um, is it antisymmetric? If A and B are positive integers, such that A is subset of B and B is subset of A, then obviously A and B are the same thing, right? So if A is subset of B and B is subset of A, that means A is equal to B. Set A is equal to set B. So transitivity. If A is subset of B and B is subset of C, definitely A is subset of C. We have already proven this in this set theory when we were discussing that. So all these three properties are true. Then obviously this inclusion relation is a partial ordering on the power set of a set S. Comparability. Similarly, in the equivalence relation, we have the equivalent member, right? Here we have the comparable member. So the elements A and B of a POS set or partially ordered set S, comma, and this symbol is used to denote the, I mean, this is not less than or equal to symbol, but this symbol is used to denote the relation in the partially ordered set. So the two elements A comma B in the partially ordered are comparable if either A is compared to with B or B is compared with A, right? So when A and B are elements of S, so that neither A is compared with B nor B is compared with A, then A and B are called incomparable. If they both can be compared, right, then we can say comparable, otherwise we can say incomparable. So if when two sets in the posets, if they are same A and B, if we can compare them, then we call it comparable, otherwise we call it incomparable. So if S comma I mean if in the poset is if this S is in the poset and every two elements of S are comparable, S is called totally ordered or linearly ordered set, right? And I mean this set, the partially ordered set, is called a total ordered or a linear ordered set. A totally ordered set is also called a chain, right? For example, another definition is if this POS set S comma this comparable is a well ordered set, um, if it is poset such that this comparable is A, I mean this set poset is a total ordering and every non-empty subset of S has a at least has a least element. So then we call it a well-ordered set. So just to remember, I mean, what is comparability? I mean, if two elements in the posets are comparable or incomparable, right? Hesse diagram. This is again one of the important diagram that is used to represent graphically or the visual representation of the partial ordering, right? It's a graphical or the visual representation of partial ordering. So what happens? A Hesse diagram is a visual relationship, the representation of a partial ordering that leaves out edges that must be present because of the reflexive and transitive properties. So when I mean this diagram actually eliminates the reflexive and transitive properties. So it actually leaves out edges that must be present because of this one. So a partially ordered, for example, here in this diagram, how this diagram has been created. So we can see that in a Hesse diagram, what we do, we resolve the reflexive and transitive edges. So for in the first step, if you see, it is a reflexive relation. So node 1 to 2, 3, 4. Every node has a loop. That's why it is a reflexive relation. And uh, from here, we can convert any relation into the, I mean, we resolve this reflexive problem. So what we do, we remove all these reflexive relation. So here you can see in diagram B, we removed all the loops in order to leave out the reflexive relations, right? So here you can see no one-to-one loop, two to two, three to three, four to four. So all these type of ordered pairs are removed from this diagram. This is a visual representation. You can see this is nothing but a diagram like we have seen earlier. But this is Hesse diagram that is based on the diagram that actually use the partial ordering, right? So we remove the reflexive relations. Then in the next step, what we do, we will resolve the transitive relations as well. I mean, we will leave out the transitive property as well. So let's see what are the transitive property here. So one has a relation with two, two has a relation with three, and one directly has a relation with three. That's why this is causing a transitive relation, right? So we'll remove this relation, this link 1 to 3. So no link 1 to 3 in the resultant diagram. Similarly, 2 has a ordered, I mean, relation with 3, and 3 is a relation with 4, but 2 has a direct relation with 4. That's why this is also the transitive relation. So remove this 2 to 4 relation as well. No 2 to 4 relation. And then this one has a relation with 3 and 3 has a relation with 4, but then one has a direct relation with 4. That also makes a transitive relation. So remove all the transitive relation, and the resultant relation is the partially ordered or partial ordered of this I mean poset set, and this is represented using the Hazer diagram, right? So a partial ordering is shown in A of the figure above, right? The loops due to the reflexive property are deleted in B. The edges that must be present due to the transitive property are deleted in C. So the Heze diagram for the partial ordering A is depicted in C. So this is the Heze diagram for the partial ordering of this A, right? So how we actually develop this Hazard diagram? This is the algorithm. So I already shown you that what you have to do is, in the first phase you have to remove the reflexive relation, and in the second phase you have to remove the transitive relation. So that is written here. Remove all the loops, that is the reflexive. Remove all the edges, that are making the transitive property, right? And then the resultant would be the and then at the end you remove all the arrows. See, no arrows are given. So this is the Hazer diagram, right? So this is how we actually represent this relation, right? With the partially ordered relation with the help of the Hazer diagram. So that was all about today's lecture. So in this lecture, we discussed about the chapter 9 of the of your textbook. That was about the relation. We saw what is a binary relation, and then we saw the properties of the binary relation, that is transit reflexive, transit symmetric, antisymmetric, and transitive. And then based on those properties we discussed the representation of those the relations with the help of the matrices and with the help of the digraph. And then we discussed many things later on. What are the equivalences, what are the partial ordered sets. And then with this I'm ending this lecture. Prepare your questions for the next Zoom meeting, and then in the next video we will be probably be discussing about the graph theory, right? So until then, take care, and have a good day. Bye bye.